Hi, I'm Duncan Moss, and I'd like to welcome you to my latest video blog. Today I'll be talking about the first Beatles album, Please Please Me. And today's I think it's the 10th of February. Yeah, I think I'm right. I think it was the 11th of February that they recorded the album. They already had four tracks, the two singles, Love Me Do with the B-side PS I Love You, and Please Please Me with the B-side Ask Me Why. And they needed 10 other tracks to make a 14-track LP that was going to be released towards the end of March. They recorded the whole of the 10 tracks in basically some in one day. Some people say it was 10 hours, some people say it was 12 hours. But they recorded the whole album in 10 days, which is a pretty major achievement. And thinking about it in today's day and age, you'd think if it took them that such a short time to record the album, the chances are it probably wouldn't be up to much. Well, if you think that, you're very, very wrong, because their first album, was absolutely blistering. Um, this is the front cover from the album. Sorry about the glint. It's got the four lads leaning over a balcony at EMI, and the photograph was taken by Angus MacBean, who was a Scotsman born in Wales, a very fine photographer. He'd been around quite a while when this photograph was taken, and of course, his services would be asked for 6 years later to do another photograph of the Beatles in the same place for the Get Back album. Uh, Basically, the lads look very, very happy. They're leaning over the balcony, all smiles, basically inviting you to a party. And you're welcome to come to it, or you're welcome to ignore it. But the party would go on for the next 7 years. And the first track on side one of the album is Paul McCartney's I Saw Her Standing There. Basically, from the counting 1, 2, 3, 4, straight to the beginning of with George's fantastic guitar work, you know that you're in for a treat. The song is very, very powerful. It's also very friendly, and that was going to be a trait that would be in the Beatles' work pretty much right through their whole career. This friendliness, making them it's almost like the boys next door, or the favorite nephews. Just a great rock and roll track, and a Beatle classic right at the very beginning. The second track is another Lennon-McCartney track called Misery. It's quite short, but it's very competently played, and with some piano work from producer George Martin. This would be Sir George Martin would play on several Beatles tracks, usually getting absolutely no credit for it. But it's a good song, and then we go into track 3, which is John Lennon basically singing solo a song by Arthur Alexander, who was, I think, a New York taxi driver who just had a rather good way of writing very good songs. And John Lennon really, really did admire his work very much. So this song Anna was about a broken engagement. It's very sad. And John, who was always considered to be the hard member of the band, he sings the song with the most incredible amount of pathos. He sounds absolutely broken-hearted on the record, and as he had one time and a couple of times in the song, he goes right down the scale like a and with a choking voice that is just unforgettable. Um, Really, and George and Paul provide the most incredibly ghostly backing vocals, really haunting and unforgettable. Uh, we then go into a Goffin King number, Chains, which has them all three singing, but then when it gets to the verses, it's George is left with the competent rendering of the verses, and he sounds almost angelic as the youngest member of the band. He sounds he just sounds like a young lad who's sort of finding it difficult to talk to a beautiful girl. It works beautifully. We then get the Ringo's debut as a vocalist, and he sings Boys, which I think was a hit for the Shirelles, a lady group. Of course, you can't turn it round and call it Girls because it doesn't fit in, but sing the song as it is Boys. And it just works for Ringo beautifully. His drumming is matchless and very powerful, and George's blistering guitar solo makes the track unforgettable. And then to close side one, we've got "Ask Me Why," which is the B-side of the single "Please Please Me," a beautiful love song from John. With a lot of pathos, and a beautiful song about someone who's just found themselves in love when they never when they least expected it, and it's very moving and a fantastic B-side. Beatles connoisseur Mark Lewisham described the song as tentative. Oh, I don't think so. I think it's a classic right from the word go. And then, of course, for track 7, we're launched into "Please Please Me," which had been just been at number 1. I think it was now sliding down the charts, but no, it would have been coming up to number 1, I think, as they were recording the album. If someone, I'm sorry, it's roughly. But it was the Please Please Me album was following a very, very well-established formula. It's making an album based on the success of a couple of singles, adding X number of tracks to the singles to make an album. The Beatles were following that formula, but at the same time, they were breaking new ground as well. Just by coming up with a record that was dazzling. We then kick off side 2 with "Love Me Do." This is not the version that you went out and bought when the record was when the song was originally released. It's a remake that was done a few weeks later because George Martin didn't think that the single version was quite good enough for the album, so they did a remake, and this the original release had Ringo playing drums. This has got Andy White playing drums, and it's a little glossier than the original version, and that version would then be released as a single in later years when it went to America. They would just use the same catalogue number, but they would take off the original recording and just put the second remake on, keeping the same catalogue numbers. Very, very sneaky. but it worked. We then got P.S. I Love You, the B-side of Love Me Do, which is a fabulous song. You could argue it's actually better than Love Me Do, but it works beautifully. A very fine B-side. We then go on to Baby It's You. It's another fine cover version from John. Again, with saying that he loved that there's this girl who's treated him badly, but he still loves her and will always love her. And again, not quite as much pathos as Anna, but nevertheless, a very fine effort. And I think this is what is the great thing about the Please Please Me album. They have got so much. The album was recorded quite cheaply, and they've got so much enthusiasm and energy that it's just, and it works. The fact they have it is such a low budget album works in their favour, because it just shows that there's no gimmicks, and it just shows how really good the boys are. We've then got Do You Want to Know a Secret, which is given to George. And just very soon after this recording became available, Billy J. Kramer and the Dakotas had a big hit with the same song. And I've said this before, their version is more accomplished. It's technically superior to George's effort. But George, with his slightly awkward pitching, and he sounds like a nervous boyfriend who's having trouble talking to the girl he loves. And this little boy lost persona works beautifully in the favour, and I think George's version has got more charm. We then go on to a song called A Taste of Honey. Now, this was used for the Sugar Puffs commercial in the 1970s. So I found when I was listening to the record when I was 10 for the first time, I got great amusement from that. And they do it really well, John and Paul, especially the bit where they say, I will return. It sounds like they're on horseback in a Western. But beautifully done. Beatles had so much respect for the cover versions that they were doing, as much respect as they had for their own songs, maybe even more. But it's a great song, and they were then given "There's a Place," which John and Paul sing together with a very strong mouth organ, and just a lovely song. So we've come almost to the end of the album. The rumour is that this next track, the finish, the grand finale, was done in one take, but apparently it was done in two, and it's Twist and Shout. And it just, John's blistering vocal, followed by George's incredible guitar work, great backing vocals, and superb drumming. And the Beatles had a classic on their hands. And what would happen is that John was very, very reluctant when there was talk about having Twist and Shout used released as a single, because he said it would wreck his voice. So EMI said, well, don't worry, we'll release it as an EP. So he releases an EP with 3 tracks, more tracks from Please Please Me. That's Taste of Honey, Do You Want to Know a Secret, and There's a Place. Thinking that the EP would only sell about 7,000 to 10,000. Well, it sold nearly 800,000 and went right to the top of the British charts. One of the most successful EPs of all time. There'd be a second EP taken from the album. I saw her standing there. I think it's called Beatles Number 1, which would have that. I saw her standing there. Misery, Anna, and Chains, and that would be not as successful, but it would make the top 20. So basically 12 of the tracks were released on a 45 in some shape or form. And well, the Please Please Me album is just wonderful. I haven't really said much about the actual song Please Please Me. It's just the title track. Well, it's just full of matchless timing, a very fine mouth organ. John wouldn't play the mouth organ when they perform the song live because he sings lead vocal and does the mouth organ on the recording. And of course, you can't sing and play the mouth organ at the same time unless you've got Bob Dylan's thing. But you can sing and play mouth organ, but you can't do them both at the same time. So I'm trying to say. But the album went to #1 and stayed at #1 for 6 months or so until the Beatles' second album with the Beatles toppled it. A great album, a piece of pop history. If you haven't got the album, and it's just about, it'll celebrate its 60th anniversary on the 22nd of March. I warmly invite you to go and buy it on CD from Amazon or whatever. It's not very expensive, and it really is half an hour of absolutely fantastic soft rock music. Well, rock music, pop, whatever you want to call it. It's a brilliant album and well worth exploring. So happy 60th anniversary, Please Please Me. So thank you very much for listening to this. If you want to tick the like button, that would be lovely. If you want to subscribe, that would be also lovely as well. If you want to forward it to any Beatles fans you know, please do. And well, I'll see you next time. I'll try to be doing something, rather talking about something else next time, other than the Beatles. But there'll be lots of other Beatles blogs coming in the future. So take care, everybody. God bless.